Hi, it's me, Justina. Welcome back to Investigative Selfism. And today's topic is something that has been on my mind for a pretty long time, but also time not that long. And I wish I had learned about it decades ago. So I think it's important to talk about it today or any day. And that is the topic of healthy anger. And it's not only a mental health when I think about topics, it's actually a topic of health itself, of physical health. And you will, if you're not aware about it now, you will understand by the end of my this hopefully short episode. But why now? I think it's always good to talk about it, and sometimes certain topics come up because of what's happening in my personal life. So I'm thinking, oh, this might be a good thing to talk about. Seeing what's happening in the world more recently, I feel like anger is like it makes sense to feel a bit angrier about certain things, and why it makes sense also I will explain through this episode. But so what is healthy anger? Not rage, not this uncontrollable anger and some kind of a super, aggressive sometimes even reaction, but anger is an emotion, right? It's one of the emotions that obviously if we're in tune with ourselves, we feel sometimes, just like any other emotion. So if we're not really feeling that healthy anger when, things are worthy, let's say, of it, it means a couple of things, right? That we're disconnected from ourselves, that we may be gaslighting ourselves, and we're saying, oh, everything's fine, like this is not a big deal, like it's all okay. Or also we're engaging in some people pleasing, and I myself am sadly I've been very much a people pleaser for most of my life, and I'm still trying, I'm on a path there. But so healthy anger is actually a big part of, there's a connection between these two. So you might be, if you're not feeling that healthy anger, you might be a little disconnected from yourself. And we know that especially statistically for women to express healthy anger, we're very socially conditioned to be the caregivers, the caretakers, hence then the people pleasing, hence taking up various tasks. And not showing anger becomes the norm sometimes. And also known statistically for women, like women are not are suppressing healthy anger more, and certain minorities in some countries, especially if you're a minority, that's being seen as a threat already by different agencies, let's say, or the police. So for you to show your anger in even in healthy ways becomes dangerous actually. And why we have those tendencies, let's say, to suppress not just anger but different kinds of emotions. We know that we cannot completely rationalize it because oftentimes it does stem from our childhood. So that question, of what emotion you sort of as a child you thought that you had to suppress to be loved. If as a child you're showing you show one emotion or another, and by the reaction of your parents or your primary caregivers, you think as a child, right, because you cannot rationalize, you think that, oh, if I show more of this, I won't be loved. Then you will show less of it, right? And you will start suppressing it throughout your life. So it's something that, like it's not really our fault, right? We're being sort of shaped in a way by our life circumstances into certain behaviors and become habits, and then can get confused with personalities, right? But very often, it does come from childhood. So instead of blaming ourselves or being unkind to ourselves, this is time also to show some self-compassion. And why is this important? Well, we know, and this is very much from child development studies and trauma studies, and very much the work of Gabor Mate, a Canadian-Hungarian physician and trauma expert, and an overall amazing individual, I would say. And his work is just, it's revolutionary. It's revolutionary. I'm saying, if you're reading something about health, mental health, and trauma, and you haven't heard of Gabor Mate, that's weird. What rock are you living under? So his work, when he from his own medical, 40 years of being a physician, his own experience with his patients, and then taking studies that spread across decades and connecting the dots of the effects of suppressing certain emotions. We have an emotion, an emotion is a physical thing, it's in your body, but you suppress it. So there's a lot of energy in it to suppress an emotion. A lot of stress is created in the body, and that chronic stress then leads in the future, very likely, to chronic illnesses. Because that stress that you create in your body when you suppress an emotion, it will affect your neuro, well, it's a psycho thing, it's like a psycho thing, but it also affect your immuno, endocrine, and your nervous system. And because of these effects, and I'm obviously oversimplifying, plus I'm not a physician, and because of these effects that suppression creates on these systems, then different illnesses might appear. And the links are incredible. You know, there's plenty of evidence, like plenty of research, like, my goodness. So I myself, you know, when I discovered Gabor Mate's work and that work on healthy anger and on different emotions, the suppression of emotions that affect on our health, I was just like, this is life-changing. Like, I know it, I cannot unknow it. Like, that's it, I have to do something with it. And as someone who is very much trying to, you know, unlearn her people-pleasing habits and tendencies, and trying to express my anger now also in, you know, in healthier ways, for me it's been already life-changing. Like, I'm keeping it in mind, you know, as I'm navigating various situations. So I have to say, when I look back at this year, I'm like, oh, you know, I did pretty well here. I was the real me. I expressed this and this, you know, these situations. But there are plenty of situations where I really didn't show up as the authentic me, you know. And there is no one. You might be thinking like, okay, so what do we do, right? What do we do with this situation, this knowledge? Like, what are the next steps? And like, what's, if not the antidote, like, how do we navigate that? And a couple of things, really. One is to have practices, to be a bit more present, and to really be more in tune with ourselves. You know, really asking that question, like, what am I feeling? How am I really feeling? You know, and maybe creating time and space to do that, for that check-in, right? Because obviously, if you're just lying to yourself that everything's fine, that's not a step to any good direction. So first, that awareness, and like, okay, what is it? You know, say like, oh, I'm actually I can feel that anger come up. Instead of saying, oh, like, I'm so chill, everything's fine, look at me. Like, no, it's not fine, actually. So that's the first step. And as Gabor Mate himself writes in his books, that one of the paths, and one of the elements, or not the paths, one of the elements of healing is to learn how to self-assert, right? How to assert ourselves. Not in some rude way, in some unhealthy way, but just how to express our needs, our preferences, our deal breakers, like to express the real, authentic us, how to set healthy boundaries, you know, how to move away from the people-pleasing to setting those boundaries. So it's, for me, I'm like, oh, this is the work of a lifetime. And I accept that. I'm like, I'd rather be on that path of being the authentic, healthier me than, with that knowledge, not do anything to continue, you know, my people-pleasing, and to say that, you know, everything's fine. And then know that this everything's fine, it's going to create some stress in my body, it's going to affect all my systems. And then look, some years later, some autoimmune disease. So, this is my wish for myself. And for you also, you know, this year or next year that is coming, you know, it's coming up, is just to not to be afraid, first of all, to explore like what's happening in terms of that healthy anger. And once again, especially if you're a woman, we know that it's more likely that you are not necessarily struggling, but there's more to unpack for you, right? Or a minority in a certain society. So I really invite you to, if you're not there already, to embark on that path of exploration, because it can not only, you know, it's life-changing because look at this knowledge, but it can be life-saving. It can be life-saving. So since I'm not a doctor or a physician or a therapist, I'm just someone who's a fan of learning about, you know, tools and frameworks, and, you know, just all this knowledge that can help me navigate life in a healthier way, like for me to be more me in ways that are healthy for me, however I describe it, you know. So what I'm going to do really is to look into that topic, and I don't want to recommend too many resources, but the one for me that was life-changing, in addition to all the, you know, podcasts and, you know, something like in the form of an audio, like audiovisual, but I want to recommend you this one book that for me was, it is still is life-changing, and that is When the Body Says No by Gabor Mate. When the Body Says No. Well, The Myth of Normal also takes a lot of that, also his other book, and explores that, or is that one book kind of goes into the other one. But When the Body Says No, it's amazing. Like, you will have no doubts about the connections between like different systems of your body, and how that stress created by suppressing a certain emotion, how it affects them. Like, you will have no doubts. Like, if you're skeptical now, like, oh my goodness, how much more data do we need to believe that and to actually take action? Because I think that there are many things, there are many areas of life, that we need to focus on, I think, for very valid reasons. And I think this can be for many one of them. And at least to have that awareness, at least to, embark on that path and then see where that path takes you. And I hope it takes you to learning like I am, to assert myself, to be the real me, instead of suppressing the parts that then, affect me negatively, like my health in general. So it's a simple wish, and it's a simple summary of something I'm learning. But then when you're learning something, you're like, I need to tell everyone. And obviously, first for me is like, hey, sister, you should, like, actually, my sister, like, you should read this. I'm like trying to translate bits of this book to my mom as well. So I like, it's not just a book recommendation, but it's a whole body of knowledge and certain types of understandings that I think can be life-changing, that I'm recommending as well. So thank you so much for watching this, for listening to this. I hope you are curious now, if you haven't been already, about this topic, and that you take the time and you invest in yourself, you invest in your mental health, in your physical health, and just invest in yourself, if not this year, then next year. If not next year, then in the future. And just thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you soon.